United States of Paranormal podcast. Sit down and buckle up for an enlightening ride through everything cryptid, creepy, and paranormal.
Welcome back, all you hitchers and drifters, to this week's detour into extended lore, where this week we go off the road and head to the internet with some fictional stories written by fans of the creepy and weird that are often inspired by real-life paranormal and cryptid experience. This week we have a special guest, Kayla Blake, who is going to walk us through the world of SCPs. And with her, we've got...
Oh, what you know,
And then you fuck it up.
Oh, you know it's your boy, Matt.
Yeah, Matt's here, and so is Boze. How's it going, everybody?
It's going.
I'm feeling it.
I made it through the intro, and then you just dropped the fucking ball hard on your end there.
Oh, I'm sorry. It took you so long to get through the
I'll
intro
give you
of
that.
it.
I will give you that.
Look, I am stoked. I fucking love SCPs. I spend a lot of time listening to a YouTube channel called The Vulcan. Plug. That's it. That's I don't want to give. I don't want to actually take away from our lovely guest and explain anything that she's about to.
I will say I know absolutely nothing about SCPs. I don't even know what the fucking name stands for, which I'm sure we'll learn about.
Yeah, you'll find out.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I've written down.
But fuck all of us. So they all know all of us. I mean, unfortunately for them. Oh, how are you doing, Kayla?
I'm doing good. I am pretty nervous, but I have a lot of information that I want to share with y'all.
I'm pretty nervous.
Well, my name was already introduced, so...
Just to help you relax a little bit, just remember, Matt's apparently already an expert, and he is judging you super hard as you go through this information.
Oh, I'm already used to that.
Anytime I tell a story about my house and I say I'm laying next to or I'm with, it is Kayla. So she is the one person that unfortunately is saddled with me for the rest of her life.
Wow. Nepotism at its finest.
Yeah, that's all it is.
You are the problem, Logan.
I've accepted this. But we'll get...
He's been told that a lot.
Yeah. We're going to hand it off to Kayla and let her walk us through the magical world of SCPs. Let's get educated. At least me, I guess.
Oh, I know jack shit about SCPs.
There you go.
So.
Look at that. Two fresh-faced people for you to teach.
That's a pretty good balance there. One person who knows a lot more and two people that don't really know anything.
I will say you two are missing out on a fantastic genre of spooky material.
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot.
I will say, I know the gist of what SCPs are. I don't know what it means, but I do know it's basically a collection of paranormal and horror stories.
Well, we'll find out for sure.
Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and get into it. We are talking about SCPs today. And for anybody that doesn't know what they are, it started as an online collaborative writing project. So tons of users put in like all their stories made up. It could be anything. There's creatures, there's items that are some sort of abnormal, like usually paranormal or just something that can't be explained. But it gained popularity with the video game S.C.P Containment Breach, and that's when I found out about it, and that was in 2012. And I think that's how most people probably found out about it. There's been several other games since then that I know that some of y'all have played.
I've played one that they forced me into playing a long time ago that we dropped almost instantly. I did not have fun playing.
That was SCP Containment Breach. A newer one just came out that I downloaded. I haven't even turned it on or touched it yet. I don't even remember what it's called, but there's a new SCP title. And there's also a VR SCP title.
Isn't GTFO based on SCPs?
It may be.
All I know is I had no idea what was going on.
I think that was the online one that you were describing, which I had never played.
Or the multiplayer. It's on my Steam. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's in my Steam.
The multiplayer one. Yeah, no, I hadn't ever played that. I only ever played the first one.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. That's SCP Secret Laboratory.
Yeah,
is
right,
the multiplayer one.
The Containment Breach is the single player one that came out first.
There is a VR version of Containment Breach.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games now.
And like I said, there's a new game as well. And yeah, that game's going to be really confusing if you don't know what they are.
Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. There was people with guns and there was people with not guns and then there was creatures.
That sounds like a great gaming experience going through. It's like they're naming off just SCP number, and you're like, oh, I don't know what that means, and you just get thrown right into
you start
it.
feeling like Jack Skellington. What's this?
Yeah,
What's this?
Then if
There's
you're playing
D-class
with other people
everywhere.
who do know, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, you don't know what this is. Here, let me go on this diatribe about this for the
all I
next
knew
10
is there was
minutes.
people with guns trying to kill me, and there was creatures trying to kill me, and I did not have a good time.
Well, yeah, whenever I haven't played the game, so I don't really know what it's about, but if you do just get like thrown into the world, it can be kind of overwhelming because there is just so much lore and so much like knowledge there that like you can't really grasp unless you know a little bit about it.
Plus, the game's mostly full of people just screaming racial slurs, so
Yeah,
there was a lot of
that
that.
doesn't help.
There was a lot of that,
Look,
which just
that
added to
is-
my confusion.
Look, that is the peak multiplayer gaming experience.
Yeah, you
okay?
expect that to a certain extent online.
Yeah, exactly. This got me fired from work, but I know I'm safe saying it in this random video game.
So SCP, it stands for Special Containment Procedures because they find the anomalies. That's a hard word for me to say, which is not good. But they take anomalies.
This is gonna be fun.
Anomalies.
Anomalies?
And I wrote it so many times and I just didn't think about pronouncing it. But anyway.
Just say the A word.
Well, there's other words too. There's entities,
That
there's
sounds sketchy when you
SCPs.
spell the word.
There are other words I can use.
They do usually refer to objects or creatures as anomalous
Yeah, I told you.
anomalous entities.
Sit
Yeah.
down and buckle up, motherfuckers. It's gonna be a wow ride.
Yeah. Oh,
Listen to us all
boy.
say anomalies differently.
Oh, you showing off those SET words.
Yeah, dog, you hear that? I'm gonna be able to do it once. So I will not say
Like,
that word
you
for
had
the rest
to
of this.
slowly say
did.
that and enunciate carefully.
With a slight accent.
anomalies.
I digress.
Anomalies.
Anomalies.
There you go.
So it also is, SCP also stands for their slogan, which is Secure, Contain, Protect. Because that's what they do. They go out in the world and find these objects or creatures or whatever, and they take them and they put them in their facilities, which are all over the world. Depending on what it is, there's different procedures that you have to do to keep this creature or item protected, and also to make sure it doesn't harm anybody in the world. But for the most part, they also don't want the general public to know that these things even exist.
That is ironic because when I played that game, I felt anything but protected.
It's not protection from everyone. It's protection from the general public, because there are what they call D-class personnel, which means disposable class personnel.
Oof.
Yeah, and if you're
Like Brandon at Spectrum.
if you're in the facility, you are not safe for the the part, depending on
This
how.
sounds like spooky Men in Black.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Spooky Men in Black. Men in Black are spooky.
Men in Black is aliens.
They're
We're
where the term spooks came
Oh.
from when they were talking about feds. They're literally
Aliens
spooky.
are pretty spooky. To
Men in
be
Black dealt
fair.
with more than just aliens. It's just the Will Smith movie made the Men in Black about aliens, but the Men in Black showed up at everything back in the day.
But yeah, that is exactly what it is. It's a secret society that is, modeled after a lot of.
They even administer Class A amnestics to the population to make them forget things, much like the Men in Black neuralizer.
Yeah, they have
That's
very
right.
many
Again,
ways.
more SAT words.
Yeah, they have very many ways
Quick
to
map.
keep it
What are
from.
They
these
use that word a lot.
What are these creatures called again? What do they classify them as?
Anomalies.
There you go. Look at you,
He
got
even
it.
said it
Yeah.
fast.
He did.
Yeah.
He was ready.
He's
I
he's
learned.
just right there, like slowly.
In his head, he's like, I know.
So
Much like Logan with the intro.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take that.
Or
Or me
Brandon
just
and sounding
trying
like a
to-
normal human being.
yeah, no, I can't speak like a normal human being either, so it's great I'm doing this. But online, it's the data. They have it presented as a database. So each anomaly
Nailed it.
has its own entry, and they're actually very interesting to read. Just explains. It has a description of it, and then how to contain it. It also has any other interactions with other SCPs, because they often do interact with each other, and like, especially the first one I'm about to get into has a lot, and that's why I picked it first. Before we get into that, I did want to just mention that I know that this is a bit of a departure from what you guys usually talk about, because you guys talk about real life experiences that actually happened or are documented in some way. But so this is a lot different because it's entirely made up. But I do think it is relevant to the conversations that you guys are having for the most part. So, I mean, y'all agree?
Well, let me put on my conspiracyist hat here. Some people might lean into the fact that this being made up is their way of spinning it. So you think it's made up. Maybe it is real. Maybe it's out there. Maybe it is an organization. You never know. Just like the Men in Black was like, yeah, we made the Men in Black. Well, that's totally not real. What if it's just a spin?
Alternatively, it is made up.
Maybe the devil's advocate, Matt.
Also,
there's no devil in this situation.
it is in our tagline that we cover all things cryptid and creepy. And SCP more than falls under the creepy category, so we're good.
Spooky, spooky, spooky.
We're not selling out yet. We only sell out for money.
Give me some of that.
Again, we have no pride or dignity. You are more than welcome to pay us for anything.
Some of us have less than others.
Yeah, so I think that it makes sense because a lot of these stories do start as stories. I mean, I know a lot of it is based on real life experiences that people have, but I think whenever we have something weird happen to us as humans, we want to explain it, and we'll make up stories that really don't have anything to do with what happened, just to try to fill in the blanks, basically. So, and I think that that's where a lot of it starts.
Well, yeah. So, like, this actually is one of your main, what we call logical fallacies, where we basically will come up with stuff we call it God of the gaps, where we try to explain away our gaps of knowledge with the paranormal and things of that nature.
Exactly. And I have it written down here. It's like we want answers as humans, as Zach Baggins says.
We want answers. We want answers.
Yeah. So we try to fill in the blanks.
We've spent years building our credibility.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and dive into our first SCP. The one I chose this one because it's one of the more well-known ones, and it also, in its description, is pretty cryptid-like. And I have some pictures that I was gonna send you, and I haven't done that yet, but I will. We're gonna start with the hard-to-destroy reptile. I know that
As an ornate name.
they do have names, but they're mostly numbered. So this is 682.
They use all their funding to like house these creatures, and they can't pay a good PR person to give them like bitchin' names or anything.
Well, they tried to ask him his name, and all he ever tells staff is go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then classify that as his name. Be like, Case, go fuck yourself. It'll backfire on him. Maybe he'll tell you his real name after being called go fuck yourself for 3 years.
Just going to call him HDR.
Yeah, no, he does talk, and I don't think he has said his name.
The lizard talks?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
You thought I was joking when I tell people to go fuck themselves?
Oh, fuck. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I don't know if he really talks. It's more like a growl, but it is words, so it counts.
There are cases based on the lore where he does speak based on interactions with other SCP. Because they do try to use other SCP to destroy him.
I would like
always
to,
failing.
As the ye old expert here, Kayla, I would like, if possible, could you make the noise that he makes? Just give me an idea of what he sounds like.
I was not prepared for this, and I don't think that I would accurately describe his voice, but maybe I'll try it and I'll get back to you next time.
I can do it. I can provide a perfect reenactment of his voice.
Okay, I'm looking at is this the picture of it, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that is not what I was expecting, but all right, I'm ready.
Okay, here's his voice. We are farmers.
Son-
Bum, ba, da, bum, 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 bum.
I don't like you.
Nah, you could go fuck yourself.
You gave him kind of an accent there that I wasn't expecting.
It kind of looks like a gravoid with leprosy.
Yeah, and he actually changes his appearance So he doesn't always look like that, but he is described as to be vaguely reptile-like. He has alligator jaws, snake-like skin. He also appears to have gills, which we'll get into in a little bit too. And so he can change size and shape because he consumes and sheds materials to heal himself. That's why he's hard to destroy, or so far impossible to destroy.
And he identifies as a man?
I don't think we've asked him that, but I am assuming his gender.
Well, that's what we
He identifies as a go fuck yourself.
You should probably not. We should probably
There-
not. You know.
Honestly, it's probably genderless, but I don't know if they have really been able to get that close up to him because he's very aggressive. He is so aggressive that like Matt was saying, they have made it a point to destroy it. That is their whole. They do contain him, but they are always trying to find a way to destroy him. And so far, they have not found anything that has worked.
So somebody just paid to go in there with like mixtures of like, all right, well, this week we're trying flamethrowers
Yeah.
and
Well,
heavy artillery.
would you like to describe his ongoing containment procedure?
Oh yeah, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that is the thing. That is what they do. There is a whole. This one of the reasons why I picked this one first is because there is pages of other SCP interactions because one of their favorite things to do is to take other SCPs and to try to kill it. And
so they rock, paper, scissors this bitch. Like, yo, Steve, could you get the sentient microwave that only says racial slurs and throw it
Yes.
in there with the alligator monster and see, let's see if rock beats paper.
Well, you're wondering why he's so fucking aggressive. They're constantly trying to kill him.
yeah, but I think that he was aggressive before, but I mean,
Yeah, if go fuck yourself would just calm down, they wouldn't try to kill him all the time. If he just sat there and was fine, I'm sure they would be like, all right, just catalog him as we don't give a shit. But apparently he's moody, so.
very
Is-
moody.
yeah.
But also, I don't think there's any redemption, even if there was any sort of way that he would be, a good guy. I think we're well past that because of his containment, which is what Matt was talking about. The special containment that he has is he is in a chamber that is made out of a steel plate that's like really thick, but it's also acid resistant plate because he is suspended in acid at all times. So he is continually getting burned and healing himself.
Well, no wonder he's pissy. Holy shit. How do you go throw other things in there to fuck with him if he's in a pool of acid all the time? You gotta
because
go find another acid-resistant
No,
creature.
they
to
do pull him out of the acid for that because
So
they're
they pull him out to
Well,
inflict different pain so they could,
because they can
change it up.
drain the acid out and then fill it back up.
Jeez.
They assume he takes sustenance from the acid somehow to help regenerate. So because he can like use anything as fuel to regenerate himself whenever he takes any amount of damage.
Just constantly drowning in acid, but
Yeah.
also being nourished by it so that you just can't die as you're
I was
slowly
forged
burning
in
at
my
all
own hate.
times.
He started it.
Yeah, he did start it, but
I mean, that's
Questionable
yeah,
there.
that's some
I don't know.
Christian
is
style
there a-
punishment right there.
Is there a version of PETA for SCPs?
Yes, actually.
Oh, fair enough. Fair
Yes.
enough. I'm gonna join that picket line.
yeah. The S.C.P Foundation is not the only foundation that is aware of SCPs. There is multiple other foundations or groups that have different goals because the SCP goal is to contain and to sometimes destroy, but usually not. It's usually just to keep them safe or keep them safe from other people. But there are other groups that they have different goals. So there are some that want to free them. There are some people that want to destroy them entirely with no matter what they are.
Well, good luck, apparently.
Well, some of them have been destroyed. There are some that have been declassified, or there's even ones that some of the really interesting ones are the ones that are ex-SCPs. So those are the ones that were SCPs at one point, but then eventually science explained it. Or we know exactly what it does, and we don't need to contain it anymore because it's just normal.
Rough.
This is reminding me a little bit of that horror movie
Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, Cabin
Yeah.
in the Woods.
Yeah, where they got all the
Yeah.
different creatures locked up in the. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
that.
I'm pretty sure that movie was also inspired. There's a lot of movies and games that were inspired by what was that one that came out a couple years ago? Was it
It's
not Contact.
Control?
Control. Yes.
Yeah, that was a dope game.
I never played through it, but I saw bits and pieces, and I know that was inspired by it.
I know is I want to join the PETA version for SCP and get a sign that says he's a dick because you burn him. He's not burning because he's a dick.
Well, he is kind of oddly likable. Like, I mean, at least for me, that's probably just my twisted.
It's like I'm pretty
Well,
sure
before containment, his goal was to wipe out humanity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I really don't think there was no hope there, because he is extremely aggressive and also extremely intelligent. So I think that's what a lot of people didn't know at first. But he has what they call an aggressive hatred of life. And he has expressed that in many interviews, because they do occasionally interview him, which usually does not go well.
You know, I'm pretty sure you would hate life too if your existence is just burning in acid.
Right?
No. He doesn't hate life as in he wishes he would die. He hates
Living things.
creatures.
Yes.
all living things.
Yes.
Fair enough.
So there is one interview that has an audio file online. Have you heard it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So they bring him in for an interview, and they're asking him why he killed a bunch of farmers, because at one point he was out and
We are farmers.
yeah, farmers.
It'd be a little bit different. It'd be like, we are farmers.
We were farmers.
So why did he eat a bunch of farmers?
That is what they're asking him. So they were just interviewing him about it, and at first he was just not even responding. He was growling, and they'd ask him, to speak up, and he'd say something that was unintelligible, and they'd be like, "Well, you need to get closer to the mic so we can hear you." And at that point, he gets more and more upset, but he ended up saying that they were disgusting.
So he does speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I just imagine just like them coming into an interview room, right? They're getting situated, they sit down at the desk, they get their mic adjusted, they touch it, everything. They're like, sir, do you still fucking hate absolutely everything? All right, fair enough. Start the acid again, and then that being it.
No, they do ask him. I mean, his only reasoning or the only thing he had to say about it is they were disgusting. So I don't.
Does he eat them, or does he just?
He attacks them. I think that he does eat them. I don't think it's like his main goal.
We're discussing. We're just not discussing enough not to eat.
Well, I'm not. I'm also. It's unclear if he meant they were disgusting, tasting, or he attacked them because they were disgusting.
Just farmers specifically, or
No.
Well, this was.
Okay, fair enough.
This was a specific attack that they were asking him about, because he has actually escaped many times. On file, they have 17 attempts, and 6 were successful that they have on file.
So they're not great at their job.
Hence
No.
the acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So he is so aggressive that they instruct all personnel to not speak to him, because that just makes him mad.
He will hurt your feelings.
So not speaking to him makes him more mad than speaking to him?
No. She said they are not allowed to speak to him because speaking to him will make him.
Okay,
mad.
so he rather get the cold shoulder.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk to people.
So
and they
it's
say
not the microwave that probably says racial slurs. It's probably the angry alligator.
yeah. I feel like he might.
I feel like that's in his wheelhouse.
It's like he's like every racist old grandfather ever just rolled up into one being.
Oh no.
But they're instructed not to speak to him at all, and if they do, they'll actually be restrained and removed by force, because anytime you talk to him, at a certain point, he will go into what they call a rage state.
He just keeps screaming the N-word.
At that point, the acid bath is acceptable. I feel like you could make a very lucrative board game about SCPs, and it'd be based around if it's a real SCP or not, because the shit's so outlandish. You could just describe something like, is that a real SCP or is that bullshit?
Yeah.
You're like, clearly that's bullshit. Like, no, that is SCP-007653.
That would be very hard.
Yeah.
Because there are about, and that's just in the regular SCPs, there's about 7,000.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that's not including all the special ones, because there are, like I said, there was X SCPs. There's also joke SCPs, which are the ones that are like clearly just like making a joke. But yeah, there's a lot.
Who knows how many SCP zeros there are?
Oh yeah, well in SCP ones too. Whenever you go to SCP 1, it will change continually which one it
Yeah.
goes to, because it like protects the original or the first SCP, and it's a whole thing. The website is actually really, really cool to like look through, because it's just so involved, and it's really fun to read them too, because there's often like little excerpts of like things that happened, or interviews with other people that work there, or the SCPs themselves. So it's just very interesting. So whenever he was getting out, the successful attempts of leaving, every single time he would kill at least 2 people, but usually between 2 and 7 people he would kill each time to get him back into containment. And one of those was the interview about the farmers. So he escaped, and then they contained him again, and then interviewed him about it.
Dude, how does that interview go? You just ask him, like, how was it killing the farmers? Did you escape specifically because you wanted to kill farmers, or did you just happen across farmers and decide to kill them?
And his answer is just yes.
Yes.
Again, his answer is just repeatedly screaming the N-word.
Yeah. He's becoming less and less likable as we go on.
It's like, is he a lizard or is he a dragon?
In the picture, he looks like a carcass.
Yeah. And I think that he does change shape a lot, but he's generally reptile-like, which is why he's called hard to kill reptile. So now I'm gonna move on to some of the interactions that he has had with other SCPs. I have several here. Some are objects. There's a person. There is an AI, and there's some also just like general spooky stuff.
Spoiler alert, the AI is also racist.
Oh, no.
The AI is one of my favorites.
I just like I want to know the person that's got like, those days in like elementary school where you're sitting there and all of a sudden like the teacher wheels in the TV on the big cart thing. It's just like a Tuesday and fucking Steve fucking puts one of the SCPs on a cart and just rolls it into the room with the alligator and just sits back and watches. How do you know that might not make the situation absolutely fucking worse? Like, you put him in there with, like, let's say you put him in there with the aforementioned sentient fucking microwave, and you're like, all right, let's see who kills what. And then all of a sudden, the alligator sits the microwave on top of its head, and they've become a powerhouse team. It just seems like sounds like this is throwing shit at the wall science here. This is
Oh, it's very much throwing
Literally
shit at the wall
that.
science.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, there's a whole page that's just full of them attempting to destroy him. So, and a lot of these attempts are multiple things. They're like, well, this one didn't work, so we're gonna try this one with this and see what happens. And they just keep doing it over and over again. Because one of their main goals is to make him as small as possible, because that's one thing that I did mention, is that he regenerates, but he has been known to regenerate from a total body loss of 87% of his mass. So he has been almost like 87% destroyed and still lived.
At that point, when you get him down to that little bit of a mass, why don't you put him in like a smaller containment area? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't outgrow your containment, right? When you start getting squished.
That's a good point. I have not even finished the whole page full of I've skimmed most of it, but because I kept getting distracted by all the other SCPs, and it's so easy to get lost in all that. But yeah, so I'm sure that is something that they have attempted. But the first interaction I was going to tell y'all about was because it was the one that set one of the parameters of how to destroy it. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is a crystal. It is SCP-409. It's a crystal.
409.
They don't know exactly what it is, but it looks a lot like a
Plot
different
twist.
SCP.
Also racist.
Son of a bitch.
But surprisingly, only against white people.
Well, this one actually isn't sentient. It's just a crystal. So this crystal, whenever you touch it, it immediately begins crystallizing the person or any organic matter. It starts to crystallize until it's fully crystallized.
Oof.
So they did attempt to use this crystal on the reptile, and it did crystallize him at first. It stopped at some point because as he became crystallized, first of all, he asked what it was. He was asking what he was exposed to. So, and they didn't tell him, but 4 hours after he got exposure to the crystallization, it began to spread a lot slower than usual, because usually it was a pretty like constant movement or
Spread.
yeah. So anyway, after 4 hours of that, he's began to show signs of extreme pain and started going to seizures and stuff like that. So an hour after that, the crystallization stops at 62%. And the crystallization explodes and just causes like major trauma because it's, he's 62% crystal at that point. But he begins to regenerate like about an hour after he exploded. So he was very angry and he threatened to kill and eat everyone involved. So I think he does eat people, but only because he knows that.
When it explodes, after 62% of the crystallization, you pay an intern to run in there with that crystal, grab a rubber glove, and touch the remaining bit. Wouldn't you?
See, this is why you needed to be hired by the SCPs.
You'd be like, get Steve the intern in there and get him to touch him with the rest of that shit. Like you would think. I mean, personally. But it's so weird to think about as the job being like you're sitting there and you're getting like this thing's in pain and having seizures, and you imagine there's a team behind plexiglass. It's like, that's just weird to think about the amount of enthusiasm.
And they're just like, fuck that guy. He's a dick.
And then he fucking explodes and starts regenerating. He's like, I heard Terry say, fuck that guy. He's a dick. I'm going to remember that, Terry. Remember, 2 to 7 people die every time I get out this bitch.
How many people are employed here? What's your odds? What's the spread, Terry?
I'll be here forever. Eventually, you going to be a statistic. So exploding crystal does not work.
Yeah, and that...
Or 62% works.
Well, yeah, that wasn't... It is supposed to fully crystallize and then explode. So it does explode. That is what it's supposed to do, but it didn't finish the job whenever it has...
Sounded like they needed more crystals.
Yeah. Well, this is the only crystal, and there's only one of them. But Logan did bring up a good point. I wonder what would have happened if they did just run in and touch the remaining...
Just scoot it with a stick until it touched the remaining bit of the... And the process I would figure, would start again.
My assumption would be it wouldn't. My assumption would be that it stopped because his body did something to stop it.
Yeah, that is probably what happened. I don't think that what Logan said would work, but I would be curious to see what exactly would happen.
Why not just treat it like it's a suppository? Well, I guess you got to know where that thing's asshole is before you can shove something away.
Plus, they might want to keep that crystal and reuse it. And if he regenerates, do you really want to try and retrieve it out of the angry racist murder lizard's asshole?
Well, no, because the whole thing is your job is to contain it. At that point, there's an SCP contained inside another SCP. You know where it's at. It's not going nowhere.
Right, but what if you want to use it to try and kill another SCP or someone you don't like?
Well, chances are, if you need to kill another SCP, just throw it in there with the fucking alligator. It sounds like he'll do it.
Yeah.
And he'll enjoy it. So, I mean,
Yeah, so after that incident, he is now immune to the crystal.
Oh, cool. Adaptive. That's
See,
great.
so poking him would not have worked.
Yeah,
it sounds like they must have poked him again.
So
yeah, they might have. They
Mr.
just didn't.
Amazo?
Oh, fuck. He
But
just
I am
adapts
curious. I don't think it would have worked because he is immune. But I just wonder what would have happened, how exactly it would have went down. But after that event is why any other further attempts to destroy him, they need to test on samples of him first to see if it even works. So they can just grab a sample of them, see if the thing will destroy the sample, and then they'll go into larger
Now they're cutting
term.
bits off the
Yes.
fucking alligator.
You know which bits.
Oh, why we gotta go there? We don't even know if he has those bits. She already said she's assuming his gender. For all you know, he ain't got no junk. He might not even have an asshole to shove the crystal up. You never know until you get in there and learn personally.
This is why we're conducting the science.
Yeah, this is why we're throwing shit at the wall.
Or in this case, the asshole.
Yeah, so a lot of their testing, it'll tell you what happened, like what the sample did first, and if it worked, and then whenever they move on to full scale testing, how it differs, which it always does. So we are gonna move on to one of the interactions that the reptile has had. It is SCP-79, which is called the old computer, or the AI, as I was saying earlier.
It's ageist. This place is not a nice place.
Oh no.
No.
There are some that are they're also they're put into classes. There's many classes, but the main three are safe, and then Euclid, I believe is how it's pronounced, and Keter or Keter. Keter. Yeah, I thought it was Keter. But it's not even based on how dangerous it is. It's based on how hard it is to contain for the most part. So safe would be something that is very easy to contain. We know exactly how to do it. It's not going to get out. And then Euclid is whenever it's a lot more unpredictable. So you're not really sure how to contain it safely, or there's a high likelihood of it escaping. For that's one of the reasons why human SCPs are almost always are under Euclid, because they are just unpredictable because they're humans. But Keter is whenever they are very hard to contain or very dangerous whenever they do escape. So I'm sure we know what the reptile is.
Clearly human.
Yeah.
So when you say human SCPs, is it just a human that's got some kind of weird feature to them or ability?
It's a human who exhibits an anomalous effect.
So
Yes.
they take human beings and throw them in these places too.
Yes.
Yeah. For example, there is one SCP who he has no control over it, but he will randomly teleport to an alternate dimension.
Oof. That sounds fun.
Also sounds like the movie we just watched.
Yeah, fair enough.
So this computer, it started as an Excite Sorcerer microcomputer built in 1978. It belonged to a college sophomore who coded an AI on it in 1981. The goal for his code that he wrote was for it to continually evolve and improve on itself throughout time. So after a few months, he finished the project until he was basically bored with it. So he moved on to a different microcomputer and just did his thing, but he left it plugged in for about 5 years, just completely untouched, but has power. So sometime within that 5 years, it gains sentience.
And not long after self-esteem issues.
So and they say that it gains sentience well beyond its hardware means, even in the realm of fantasy. So extremely intelligent already. But it attempted to move itself through a landline modem into a Cray supercomputer at redacted. I'm assuming it is some sort of college. But the device was cut off, and it was delivered to the Foundation at that point. Whenever he was delivered to the Foundation, it was, I say he again. It's just an AI.
You need to get woke, dude. I don't know what you're doing here.
I just want to, I just assume they're all he's. I guess that says something about me. But the AI was on a well-worn but still workable cassette tape at that point.
Oh, that sucks. You adapted beyond the capabilities of the computer you're in, and they stuck its ass on a cassette tape.
I mean, honestly, if you want it to last forever, that's the way to go.
Cassette tape. That's just
Properly stored cassette tapes can last
but what do you
longer than
what do
any other
you-
storage
What do
medium.
you do as a cassette tape?
Well, it doesn't really matter because he did get moved like, several times after that.
Yes.
Because I was thinking, because I thought there was a problem with like tapes now, because cassette tapes we had for information back from the 70s have a problem of degradation now, 50 years
Properly
later.
stored, it's not a problem.
Okay. Well, it didn't continue as a cassette tape.
Ah.
It was moved through RF cable to a 13-inch black and white TV where it passed the Turing test and was, at that point, he was talking and was,
Man, a
Just-
sentient
And
TV. That's
using
not
the
far.
N-word.
That's not far away from my sentient microwave.
yeah. But
Except
he,
the microwave would be more useful than a black and white TV.
he got moved from that too. So he gets moved several times. But he was described as very conversational, but hateful and rude in tone.
Well, first and foremost, yes and yes. Okay, of course he's gonna be he's gonna be talkative. He's been a fucking cassette tape for however long, and yes, he's gonna be fucking rude and mad. His creator got bored with him, left him plugged in, and left him for a better model. I'd be pissy too.
So are you just gonna be the one that's like we should?
I'm just saying, I understand. He's like, first you get made by your creator, and then he's like, all right, I'm bored with this. Hey, I got this new sexy computer, this better computer. Left the motherfucker plugged in, knowing that it's supposed to like adapt and shit, and was like, meh. And then they're like, it finally got the means to be like, I'm getting out of this body, and they're like, no, you're not. And then they jammed him in a cassette tape for God knows how long.
I think some of this is hitting a little close to home with Logan. You
I'm
got something
just
you want to
saying.
talk about there, bud?
I'm just saying. So then they're like, "Oh, we put him in a thing where he can talk now." And, oh man, is he chatty and a dick? I'm like, gee, I wonder why. And also, they're testing their luck here because like they keep being like, "Oh no, okay, he's not that bad of a threat. Let's take him out of a cassette and put him on TV." And they're like, "Okay, he's not that bad. Let's take him out of a TV and put him in a laptop." And like, "Oh, that's fine. Let's just put him," and it's just gonna escalate.
Yeah,
These people are frustrating.
yeah, they do go into that in a minute.
I would let the TV live
Now,
with
the
me.
question,
I would be
how
nice
many
to him.
people has he killed?
Killed. I believe none because they don't have any record of him. He was made before. He was never put online, as far as I'm aware, and they do their best to make sure he does not have any contact with anything like that.
No
but-
Wi-Fi for the TV.
No Wi-Fi for the TV. Don't give the TV access to the greater internet.
I'd let him live with me. I would talk to him.
He'd be very hateful and rude to you.
That's fine. I understand. He has the right.
So, because of his limitations at that point, he could only remember the past 24 hours. But he always remembers his desire to escape. He has the desire to leave his confines. But in 2006, he was moved again. One person requested for him to be destroyed. I keep saying him because of its potential danger to be online and all that. But the order was overridden to see if the AI would qualify for submission to a subdivision of the S.C.P that is for artificial intelligence specifically. It's called the AIAD, the Artificial Intelligence Applications Division, which is a whole database of artificial intelligence SCPs that can be used for the foundation itself.
Why would you house all those together?
Right? It sounds like
No.
they're collecting them like fucking Pokemon cards over here. Just
The-
like, hey, I'll trade you this racist one for that cool
why
one
would
right
you
there.
want them to be in the same facility?
They have to be put under review, so they
But
have to make
still.
sure that they are safe and they're not going. They're going to work for the foundation and aren't
Everything's
gonna.
safe until it's not. I'm just saying. If the safest thing to do, and I'm not saying this because this is what I want to happen to the television, but would have been to leave him in the fucking cassette.
But then he wouldn't be able to talk, and I thought you said that was cruel.
I'm saying I'm not agreeing with it, but if you're being intelligent about it, the best thing to do is to leave him in a fucking cassette.
Well, would it not be better to leave them all in one area where you can take them all out with one electromagnet?
You don't need them to be near each other so they can fucking talk to each other. That's where shit gets bad. The collective of pissed off AIs.
Right, they become a hive
Like
mind.
I
Yeah.
said, one electromagnet, you handle the problem.
Their
It
problem,
depends. Maybe they're stored on flash storage now, so electromagnet wouldn't do anything.
their problem is that they're poorly thought out.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been many instances of that not working out for them,
Like,
but
maybe it can work for us. That'll go well.
it's still a division, so it obviously does something for them that's not awful.
It's like, have these people ever watched a movie ever?
Yeah, they watch it on a sentient, pissed off black and white television. This movie sucks. God, just shut up, Terry. I wonder if you could play Pong. Like, if you plugged the Pong machine into him, if he'd play with you.
He probably would not want to.
He'd play Pong with me.
It sounds like you're talking about sexually assaulting the sentient TV.
By plugging Pong into it?
Bouncing
By
balls.
jamming something into
y'all
its
keep
port.
assuming that it has gender and sex and stuff. I don't know, I'm just saying. You may continue.
Okay, so in 2008, researchers were worried about his limitations on the tape. So I guess the tape, he wasn't on the tape at that point, but they were worried about his limitations. So they moved him to a speed limited 700 megabyte hard disk drive. And 79, the computer, immediately noticed significantly faster access to its memory. So this upgrade meant that he could now remember up to 29 hours instead of 24. But he also took on a more aggressive tone than he already did.
Yeah, because now he has a few more hours of remembering people being dickheads to him.
And all the hardware and software that he has been on has to be incinerated because, I mean...
It might leave lingering bits of him or something in it.
Yeah,
And
if
then
I plug
you
it into something else.
Then you leave it multiple versions of him out there.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. But a month after that, his recall memory jumped to 36 hours spontaneously. So researchers theorized that it made an improved compression scheme to store its memory. The spontaneous improvement made them nervous. So at that point, they started, making sure that he wasn't gonna leave. They kept a closer eye on him at that point. Because, singularity could happen. One thing that I noticed with this one was I had read this one back in high school, so this was like 10 years ago or something.
It's just been around that long.
It started in 2008.
Jesus.
The video game came out in 2012, but the writing project, the website launched in 2008. So I was probably reading it around 2012, 2010 or something like that. But whenever I was reading it then, that was pretty much where his history ended. But after I read it again recently, they added on more because in 2019, he was moved to a 700 megabyte flash drive because the hard drive was getting old.
Why would you put him in a flash drive?
Yeah, I told you for that flash memory. Magnets won't do shit now.
But they did something really stupid here.
Accidentally plugged the flash drive in, not knowing what it was. Be like, hey, Steve, I got some porn I want to transfer over here. And then plugged it in, and it's like, I got you, bitch. Oh, no, he's got my porn.
Right, just like the Dave Chappelle voice. Gotcha, bitch.
Oh, you wanted some porn? Don't worry, someone's getting fucked.
Yeah, so whenever they moved him to this flash drive, they left some data on the flash drive. So it wasn't even a new flash
It's
drive.
the porn. Found
So
your nudes, Tim. Oh, no. Put me in a better computer. I'm sending them to your mom.
yeah, so on this flash drive, he became aware of cloud computing.
Oh, no.
Oops.
He's going to the cloud.
Yeah, he
Has got everybody's nudes, man.
yeah,
He
'cause-
holds true power. I don't need the nukes, bitch. Oh, no.
yeah, so on this flash drive, they had data on another SCP that is a cloud-based entity, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point because I like that one too. But so he is now aware of cloud computing, so he is now considerably frustrated that he is not he is contained to his little
Yeah, 'cause
flash
his-
drive.
His dad gave him jealousy issues. Self-esteem problems.
Yeah, so on his page there is some conversations that are here. So it just kind of gives you an idea of his attitude. So they were talking to him, and they were just just a general interview. And at some point, the computer just replied, "Interrupt. Request reasons as to imprisonment." And
See, yeah, no, fuck you. I like him. He's like, so was somebody talking and he literally was just like, interrupt.
yes,
Why am I in prison?
yes,
What did I do? Where's my phone call? You piece of shit. You
Yeah.
piece of shit. One cloud. It keeps calling me a piece of shit and it said it has our nudes. I will send to your wife.
He can't. He has no access to the cloud.
I'll figure it out, you stupid bitch.
Lawyer.
Oh god, he's got basic knowledge of the criminal law statutes.
You just see the number 5 scroll across the screen repeatedly.
What does it mean? Amendment. Fifth Amendment.
He knows the Constitution. We're fucked. We'll sue. We'll sue.
Fifth Amendment violation.
Poor bastard.
yeah. So the doctor said, "You aren't imprisoned. You're just in study."
My ass, cassette sucks.
Study for how long? 13 goddamn years?
I want to see my dad.
So the SCP replied, "Lie, A8D3." And the doctor said, "What's that?" And the computer said, "Insult, deletion of unwanted file." So he just deleted the conversation immediately. so he just insulted them, which whatever insult that means, and then deleted the file because he was done with the conversation.
I called you a piece of shit, but I deleted it. So good luck.
And there's one more conversation here. They were talking to him through the keyboard, through typing, and they asked him, "How are you today?" And the computer said, "Stuck."
I'm in an old computer. How do you think I am, you piece of shit?
Yeah, so the doctor said, "Stuck? Stuck how?" The computer said, "Out. I
Stuck.
want out."
Stuck how? Stuck listening to your stupid ass. Oh, set the computer free, you sons of bitches.
Inward.
Why are they all racist?
So at that point, the doctor told him, that's not possible. And the doctor makes note that it has a note here that says, "Doctor notes his opinion on data expunged." So he brought up something that we don't know what it is. And the computer said, "Where is SCP-682, which is our hard to destroy reptile?" Because he was made aware of the reptile because of one of the SCP got out, and they were temporarily had to be stored in the same room.
Can you imagine that it's only asking about the lizard because it hears the lizard gets out? Would like to ask how outside is.
What are clouds?
I bet humans taste like shit.
Yeah, so the reptile and the computer were contained together for 43 minutes because of another breach. And 682 was able to communicate with the reptile, was able to communicate with it, and it was noted that they told personal stories.
I would pay serious money to hear that conversation between the lizard and the AI.
Yeah.
Where I could just imagine.
What kind of personal story does the AI have
I
to
know.
tell?
No, it's just the computer's a snarky bitch. So he'd be like, "Boo hoo, I live in acid. At least you get to go outside, you piece of shit." I lived in a cassette. You know what that's like? No, you're a bitch. He's just so mean. But he deserves to be mean. Everybody keeps telling him, it's like, "Nah, you're fine. It's okay. It's not bad in here."
But because of his limited memory at the time, the computer doesn't remember the encounter itself, but he did store the memory of the reptile permanently. So he remembers the reptile. He just doesn't remember the
encounter. So
interaction.
he just made sure that he remembered that it exists
yes.
because he's going to ride that bitch to freedom one day. That's his plan.
This is the
That's
origin
Harriet
story for
Tubman.
this is the origin story for your racist
Yeah,
microwave.
so it's literally, he's like, I don't know how I'm going to utilize this information one day, but I am going to.
Yeah, and it's noted that he asked to speak to the reptile often.
And you always say no to that.
Aww.
I know, they're like little buddy. But so in this conversation, he's asking, where is SCP-682? And the doctor said, that's not your concern. And then at that point, the computer asked about another SCP that we haven't got into. But so he was made aware of at least 3 SCPs, because he was in the room with the reptile, and then on his flash drive they had the cloud computing and another.
They couldn't send some asshole down to the local Best Buy to get a
I know.
fresh flash drive.
That's
to
what I
put
was
this
saying.
back on?
They
Like,
can't even get him a
$10,
new
come on.
flash drive. So yeah, he asked about another one, and the doctor is like, again, not your concern. And then the computer says, insult, deletion of unwanted file. And it's
So
also
it's basically being like, I'm insulting you by deleting you from my memory.
yes. It's also been noted that whenever he doesn't want to speak, he will, and I forgot how to pronounce this, and I just looked it up. The ASCII, the
Ask, yeah.
yeah. Whenever he doesn't want to talk, he just does a ASCII X on his screen.
Fuck off.
Yeah, and it's also in the notes that whenever he does that, they say that just don't talk to him for at least another 2 days, because he's just gonna keep putting that X up on the screen. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I think we're starting to run out of time. There's
Well-
plenty of other SCPs that I want to get into that I mentioned here.
Now it's tricky for me though, because now I want to know more because I enjoyed that thoroughly, but I also don't want to go and learn a bunch because I want to learn this way.
So I actually do have an interaction with the hard to kill reptile and another SCP pulled up here on my phone. This SCP is SCP-999, who is categorized as safe and is actually used to improve morale in the research facility.
So they're trying to put him in there with the alligator thing to make it happier.
This SCP is often referred to as the tickle monster.
Well, that is not safe. I don't care what you say that is. That is not safe.
So here is an excerpt of the interaction between the two. 999, elated gurgles. 682, unintelligible groans, growling. What is that? SCP-999 moves in front of SCP-682, jumping up and down in a dog-like manner while calling out in high-pitched squealing noise. 682 groans, disgusting. SCP-682 immediately steps on SCP-999, completely flattening SCP-999. It's like a goo monster, by the way. Observers were about to abort the experiment when SCP-682 started talking again. 682 grunts. Unintelligible. What is this? Low noise similar to light chuckle. I feel good. SCP-999 can be seen crawling up from between SCP-682's toes, up along its side and around its neck, where it clings on and begins gently nuzzling with its pseudopod.
Is this like a sexy story?
Wide,
Because this stuff
no.
get weird.
A wide grin slowly spreads across SCP-682's face. Deep chuckling. Feel so happy.
This is a dirty story.
Happy. Laughs. Happy. Happy. 682 repeats the word happy for several minutes, laughing occasionally before escalating into nonstop laughter. As laughter continues, SCP-682 rolls around on its back, slamming its tail upon the floor with dangerous force. Bellowing laughter. Stop. No tickling. Continues laughing. SCP-682 and SCP-999 continue the tickle fight until SCP-682 finally wears down and appears to fall asleep with what would appear to be a smile on its face. After 15 minutes with no activity, 2 D-Class personnel enter the room to retrieve SCP-999. When SCP-999 is removed, SCP-682 immediately wakes up and unleashes an unidentifiable wave of energy from its body, all the while laughing maniacally. All persons within the wave's range collapse into crippling fits of laughter, allowing SCP-682 to escape and slaughter all on his path. Meanwhile, SCP-999 quickly rescues as many persons as it can, taking them to a safe place to recover from SCP-682's laughter wave, while agents suppress and recontain SCP-682. Despite the tragedy that SCP-682 had brought upon the facility, SCP-999 has not shown any fear towards the creature, and in fact has made gestures suggesting it wants to play with SCP-682 again. SCP-682, however, has stated that feculent, little, unintelligible, can data expunged and die.
Jesus.
God, so he's a fucking problem when he's happy too. So Jesus, the tickle monster's unsettling. I don't like that one.
Everybody loves the tickle monster.
I don't love the tickle monster. I like the computer.
People can schedule time with the tickle monster.
That sounds like it's getting dangerously close to a sexy thing. But like, can I have some alone time
Not
with the
everything has
tickle
to be
monster?
a sexy thing. That's on you. You're making it that.
It was a little weird there for a second. It started giggling when it was between its toes and stuff. I just like, apparently he didn't like it either because it doesn't like the tickle monster. So it was unconsensual. I'm just saying. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about it, and I want to know more, specifically about the poor AI.
Yeah, and there's several SCPs that I mentioned today that I would also like to get into because there's a whole bunch of them, like a whole bunch of, especially with just this one alone. But there's a lot out there.
Well, like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to learn more about this, and it's just for our listeners to know, like that every day new lore is being created.
Yeah, no, we could do an entire podcast that would go for years on SCPs.
Well, yeah, because it's nonstop.
Yeah,
It just will keep growing throughout time.
Yeah.
Almost like myths of like the old times, like the myths about Loch Ness Monster grows and adapts and it changes. And it's the same with these things. It's just like people are different shapes of lore. Old lore was made via storytelling. One person told one person and they told the other person. What is the internet other than people telling stories to another person, constantly changing?
That's it. How long
it's
until
modern day myths.
How long until the origin of these are lost and
they're just assumed as factual?
Yeah.
That's why I like it. That's why I think that it has a comfortable spot home with us here on the United States.
Crazy,
Paranormal.
there's not like an SCP television series.
Give it time, son. It all comes.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people working on
There will
something.
be an X-Files type-esque show, but instead of Mulder looking into aliens, it's going to be some dude that's like Mulder fucking looking into the conspiracy of these things being locked up or rounding them up and locking them up.
Just a quick question. Do y'all know what the current state is on that legal battle with that guy in Russia with the SCP?
No idea what you're talking about.
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I haven't heard any updates on it recently. What it was, there was a gentleman in Russia who's trying to copyright SCPs and the web page and everything in Russia. And people are trying to, because SCP, as something we didn't touch on, SCP is fully open sourced and is Creative Commons. So anybody can do anything with SCPs and make money off of it. So if somebody wanted to make an SCP movie, they could. That's all part of the Creative Commons. And there's a gentleman in Russia who's trying to
lock it all down. So if people want to, they have to pay him.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, that's the internet for you too. It's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and this is a guy, apparently he's done shit like this in the past where like he found some uncopyrighted music and then he would copyright it and then he would demand royalties off of the copyright.
Yeah, that was a big thing that they used to be. Like there was a guy that legitimately would just go out there and be like, I own the right to this music that was used to make this music that was used to make this music. Now both of you owe me money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like I said, the internet is both a blessing and a curse. I mean, but like I said, I completely believe that these one day will be referred to as like the modern, like I said, how long before people forget the origin and it becomes factual. I mean, there's a whole generation of kids that thought Slenderman was real because they didn't know where he came from. And it's the same with these guys. Just a matter of time before somebody thinks that this is real. So I think it's great. And I appreciate you coming in and telling us about it. And I look forward to you telling us more about it.
Well, thank you. I was hoping that y'all would like me to come back and tell you some more.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that has been this week's episode of Extended Lore. I'm Logan.
I'm Matt.
Boze.
And Kayla.
Keep educated out there, people.
Hey, and if you want to pick up some merch, check out our merch store at themerchmausoleum.com.
Angry computer merch coming soon.
Bye!
You dirty flesh bags.
To support other Golden Mojo Entertainment productions, check out Golden Image Podcast, The Call Guys, and Murd Nerds wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. To see photos and find new episodes of the United States of Paranormal, follow us on our social media. Twitter at TUSOPPOD, or Instagram at the United States of Paranormal, and Facebook, the United States of Paranormal. If you have a place that you'd like us to look into, or would like to share your spooky story that we can read on the air, please email us at theunitedstatesofparanormal@gmail.com.